other than Charlie Kirk and the defendants.
The man accused of assassinating conservative activist Charlie Kirk has apparently confessed, telling people the killing was politically motivated, prosecutors said on Tuesday. During his initial court appearance, prosecutors stated the suspect, Tyler Robinson, claimed he targeted Kirk because he saw him as a threat to the country. The judge ordered the 22-year-old to be held without bail, with his next court hearing set for September 29th. Meanwhile, Utah County Prosecutor Jeffrey Gray filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty.
Recently, within the last few minutes, a notice of intent to seek the death penalty that was filed by Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray.
Prosecutors also revealed a note left by Robinson contained his plan to kill Kirk and a list of other potential political targets.
Aggravated murder, a capital felony in violation of Utah Code Annotated.
The case widened on Tuesday when Robinson's roommate, Adam Johnson, was also charged with obstruction of justice for hiding evidence. The FBI has now opened a parallel federal investigation to see if any domestic terrorism laws were violated. Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA and a close ally of President Donald Trump, was shot and killed with a rifle on September the 10th at a Utah university.
Romania's former presidential frontrunner has been charged with plotting to overthrow the government. Călin Georgescu is accused, along with 21 others, plotting violence after last year's presidential election was cancelled over alleged Russian interference. According to prosecutors, the group sought to endanger national security and undermine Romania's constitutional order. One of the suspects is Horatiu Portra, a mercenary who prosecutors say formed a paramilitary group after meeting Georgescu last December. The group allegedly planned to spark clashes and carry out, quote, violent actions of a subversive nature. Prosecutors say he is now trying to seek asylum in Russia. The charges against Georgescu come after Romania's constitutional court annulled the election's first round in November, citing suspected Russian interference, a claim Moscow has denied. Georgescu was barred from entering the election's rerun in May, which was ultimately won by pro-EU candidate Nicolae Dan. Inflation in the Eurozone is right on target, hitting 2% in August, according to new figures from Eurostat. The number is in line with targets set out by the European Central Bank and means more interest rate cuts are unlikely to come soon. Price growth has held steady since June, with the biggest increases in food, alcohol and tobacco, all up 3.2%, and services up 3.1%. Non-energy industrial goods rose just 0.8%, while energy prices fell by 2%. The new data comes just a week after the European Central Bank decided to keep interest rates unchanged. The bank's key deposit rate remains at 2%, its lowest level in more than 2 years. ECB head Christine Lagarde stressed the bank isn't locked into a fixed path and that future decisions will depend on how the economy performs.
Christian Bruckner, the main suspect in the disappearance of Madeleine McCann, was released from a German prison on Wednesday. He had finished serving a 7-year sentence for an unrelated crime, the rape of a 72-year-old woman in Portugal. Authorities have seized his passport and he will be monitored with an electronic bracelet. Despite his release, Bruckner remains the prime suspect in the 2007 disappearance of Madeleine, though he has never been charged in that case. German prosecutors have been investigating him for murder since 2020, but his lawyer says there is not enough evidence for charges. The 48-year-old lived in the Portuguese resort of Praia da Luz around the time the 3-year-old girl vanished. Last October, Bruckner was acquitted of several other unrelated sexual offenses he was alleged to have committed in Portugal.
At least 69 Palestinians were killed on Tuesday as Israel expands its offensive in Gaza City. Arabic media outlets quoting medical sources on the ground say the death toll from Tuesday's attacks has surpassed 90. The attack comes as Israel declared the start of its long-threatened operation in Gaza City, which seeks to occupy the biggest urban settlement in the Strip.
אנחנו מרכזים מאמץ התקפי בעיר עזה. שיימשך ככל שידרש על פי תוכנית סדורה ומתפתחת, עד להשגת מטרות המלחמה. כעת אנחנו אוחזים בחלקים נרחבים משטחי העיר עזה. זאת לאחר פעולות עצימות של צה"ל בשבועות האחרונים בשכונות זייתון, שייח' רדואן וג'באליה.
The IDF estimates that approximately 350,000 of Gaza City's roughly 1 million residents were forcibly evacuated on Tuesday. In a meeting with military generals, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is working on removing even more of the remaining residents.
במטרה כמובן להשיג את הכרעת האויב, אבל במקביל גם לפנות את האוכלוסייה. ואנחנו עושים מאמצים כרגע לפתוח צירים נוספים כדי לאפשר פינוי מהיר יותר של האוכלוסייה העזתית, להפריד אותם מהטרוריסטים שאותם אנחנו רוצים לתקוף.
International condemnation has poured in following the announcement of the commencement of the operation. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, said the operation will increase human suffering and, quote, mean more death. She also announced that the European Commission will present measures on Wednesday to pressure the Israeli government to change course.
We are very proud of this project because we are looking in Europe and nobody else so fast did this project. So we are very thankful for our partners, for the boat company who built the boats, and it was a big responsibility for the city and for the citizens to say that we will make a boat in 6-7 months.
Live in the center, in this area, and you work here, I guess yes. Especially maybe women would like it, like a romantic way to go to work or to clear your mind after work. I think it will be very cool.
If we're saying that it's public transportation, but it's slower than walking, so we're not being honest. And if we're not being honest about every single part of this green transformation, then people will be confused, and in the end they will be disappointed. For now, I think it's a good experiment, and I like experiments, so I'm rooting for it to work, but I'm a bit skeptical.
Not only was he an incredible actor, we all know his work, but his as a director too, films like Quiz Show, he was one of the first guys to do political thrillers, 3 Days of the Condor, All the President's Men. He kind of he paved the way for films like this, but more so than anything, he was a staunch environmental leader and was a member of the NRDC like me, and fought for indigenous rights. The list goes on and on. We lost a legend today.
It's so sad. You know, it's inevitable. It just happens. But he left behind so much. And we're never going to see that guy again. You know, that's a different era, a different kind of man, different mentality. That's why it needs to be revered.
I mean, not just an incredible list of roles and films, both as director, as actor, as producer, but then also the whole Sundance institution, and I mean, that will live on and on.
You know, Coda being bought there at Sundance, you know, I would always think of him, and I hope that I would have a chance to meet him, and unfortunately I didn't, but it's so touching, and I'm so grateful for all of his work and his the accumulation of all of his hard work, and we still talk about him. Even after he passes away, his impact will live on, and we'll really miss him.
Just as someone that contributed something to the sustainability of our culture, I guess, whether it's my work as a film. I think probably whatever I do, what will probably last the longest are the films that I've made, because they have a long life. So just that I was somebody that brought something to the culture that had some sustainability or some value, whatever that is.